The human brain evolved in an environment where threats were immediate, physical, and often came from other humans. Predators were not abstract concepts. They had faces, patterns, and methods. The individuals who paid attention to how danger operated, who remembered the warning signs, and who could predict violent behavior before it escalated, were the ones who lived long enough to reproduce. That selective pressure built a neural architecture that rewards threat detection with a hit of dopamine and a deep sense of control. True crime hijacks that architecture perfectly. When you listen to a case unfold, your mind is not passively receiving information. It is actively mapping. You are subconsciously cataloging the red flags that preceded the violence. You are noting the victim's routine, the location, the time of day, the relationship dynamics. You are silently asking yourself what you would have done differently. This is not arrogance. This is rehearsal. Your brain is using a safe, mediated story to prepare for a reality it hopes never to encounter. This is why the audience for true crime is overwhelmingly female. Statistically, women face a disproportionate risk of intimate partner violence, stalking, and predatory behavior from known individuals. The consumption of true crime is not a fascination with victimhood. It is threat assessment. It is the modern equivalent of sitting at the edge of a campfire, listening to the elders describe which trails to avoid, which strangers to distrust, and which instincts to trust when the hair on your neck stands up. Neuroscience confirms this. When exposed to survival-relevant narratives, the amygdala activates. The hippocampus encodes details with higher fidelity, and the prefrontal cortex engages in scenario planning. The brain treats these stories as practice data. The fear response is real, but it is buffered by the knowledge that you are physically safe. That combination, arousal without actual danger, creates a state of hyperfocus that feels compelling because it is functional. You are learning, and your biology knows it. There is also a profound social intelligence component. True crime forces you to read people. You analyze the killer's behavior, the victim's trust, the bystander's blindness. You become a detective not because you want to solve a closed case, but because your brain is sharpening its ability to read intent, detect deception, and recognize when someone is wearing a mask. In evolutionary terms, this is coalition building and threat detection software running a diagnostic. The modern world has stripped away most immediate physical threats, but the software remains. It demands input. True crime provides that input in a format that feels relevant without being lethal. For most of human history, survival was not guaranteed. Infant mortality was staggering. Infection, starvation, exposure, and violence ended lives before age 30 with brutal regularity. In this landscape, information about danger was not entertainment. It was currency. The person who knew which berries poisoned, which rivers flooded, and which tribes raided at dawn held a survival advantage that translated directly into reproductive success. Natural selection favored brains that prioritized threat-related information above almost everything else. This is why bad news captures attention faster than good news. It is why a single story of violence can override 1,000 stories of safety. The brain is not calibrated for the modern information environment. It is calibrated for an ancestral world where missing one piece of threat intelligence could mean death. True crime feeds this calibration with concentrated doses of exactly the kind of information the brain is built to crave. Consider the structure of a typical true crime narrative. It begins with normalcy. A person going about their day, trusting their environment, believing they are safe. Then the intrusion, a deviation, a red flag that the victim either misses or dismisses. Then escalation, the point of no return. Then the aftermath, investigation, and resolution. This structure mirrors the exact sequence the brain needs to encode a survival lesson. Normal baseline, threat detection, crisis response, and post-event analysis. Every episode you consume is a compressed survival course. The victim's mistakes become your curriculum. You do not judge them. You study them. You note the unlocked door, the ignored gut feeling, the second chance given to someone who had already shown their nature. This is not victim blaming. This is threat modeling. The brain extracts the pattern without the emotional burden of having lived it. You get the lesson without the trauma, This is the paradox at the heart of true crime consumption. It feels like fear, but it functions as preparation. The anxiety you feel while watching is the activation of your sympathetic nervous system, the same system that would mobilize if you were actually in danger. But because you are on a couch in a lit room with a locked door, that activation is controllable. You can pause. You can look away. You can remind yourself that this already happened, and you are not involved. This controlled exposure is not unlike exposure therapy. It allows the brain to process threat-related emotions in a context where they cannot harm you. The result is a strange satisfaction, a sense that you have faced something dark and emerged intact. Psychologists call this benign masochism, the enjoyment of negative emotions in a safe context. Horror movies operate on the same principle. Roller coasters too. But true crime is different because it is real. The stakes are not fictional. The victims were actual people. This reality amplifies the learning value. A fictional killer can teach narrative structure. A real killer teaches threat behavior. The brain knows the difference. But there is a shadow side to this consumption that deserves acknowledgement. The brain's threat detection system is powerful, but it is not precise. It does not distinguish well between immediate danger and mediated information. Heavy true crime consumption can elevate baseline anxiety, increase hypervigilance, and distort threat perception. The world can start to feel more dangerous than it actually is. This is the cost of running too many simulations. The survival software was built for occasional high-intensity threats, not for constant, low-grade exposure to the worst of human behavior. Protecting your peace of mind in the modern world is just as critical as understanding these threats, which is exactly why I am grateful to our sponsor for supporting this channel. They help you maintain your security and peace of mind, allowing you to stay informed without letting the noise of the world compromise your daily life. Check out the link in the description to learn more. Moderation is not weakness. It is calibration. And when we do consume these stories, the social dimension runs deeper than casual observation suggests. Humans are hypersocial primates. Our survival has always depended on reading the group, understanding alliances, detecting cheaters, and predicting behavior. True crime is a masterclass in social failure. It shows what happens when trust is misplaced, when social cues are misread, when the community fails to protect its members. By consuming these stories, you are updating your mental models of human behavior under stress. You are learning the limits of charm, the masks that sociopaths wear, and the warning signs that accumulate before violence erupts. This social learning is especially relevant because most violent crime is not stranger danger. It is intimate. Partners, family members, friends. The people who should be safe. True crime forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality that danger often wears a familiar face. This is precisely the kind of information that ancestral humans needed most. The lion on the savannah is obvious. The ally who will betray you is not. Brains that could detect the subtle shift in a companion's behavior, the inconsistency in their story, the coldness behind the smile, survived at higher rates. True crime trains that detection. There is also a profound narrative satisfaction in the resolution phase of true crime. The investigation, the evidence, the arrest, the trial. This structure satisfies a deep human need for order. In a world that often feels chaotic, true crime offers a story where chaos is confronted, analyzed, and contained. The killer is caught. Justice, or something like it, is attempted. The community is restored. This narrative arc mirrors the ancient function of storytelling in human groups. Stories were not entertainment. They were tools for maintaining social cohesion, reinforcing norms, and warning against deviation. The true crime genre is the modern expression of this ancient function. The gender asymmetry in true crime audiences is worth revisiting because it illuminates so much about the evolutionary logic at work. Women are not consuming true crime because they are more fearful. They are consuming it because they face a different threat landscape. The risk of sexual violence, intimate partner homicide, and predatory stalking falls disproportionately on women. True crime is a genre that takes these threats seriously, that documents them in detail, that validates the vigilance women are often criticized for exercising. In a culture that frequently tells women to relax, to not be paranoid, to give people the benefit of the doubt, true crime offers a counter-narrative. Trust but verify. Listen to your instincts. Your discomfort is data. This validation is powerful. It transforms what might be dismissed as anxiety into a rational response to documented risk. The woman who checks her back seat, who shares her location with a friend, who leaves a date that feels wrong, is not being irrational. She is being informed. True crime is one of the information sources that informs her. The parasocial aspect of true crime communities also serves an evolutionary function. In ancestral environments, threat information was shared in groups. The elders spoke. The young listened. The group updated its collective knowledge. Online true crime communities replicate this function. People share cases, debate evidence, and collectively construct understanding. This is not gossip. This is distributed threat intelligence. The community is doing what communities have always done, processing danger together so that no individual has to face it alone. That I am curious. What was the first true crime story that made you realize you were subconsciously taking notes on your own safety? Let me know in the comments below. Your perspective adds to that collective intelligence. The creators who dominate the true crime space understand this tension. The best ones do not sensationalize for its own sake. They provide the details the brain needs to learn while maintaining the boundaries that keep the viewer safe. They respect the victims. They focus on the patterns. They offer resolution. This is the formula that works because it aligns with the brain's design. Threat, analysis, lesson, closure. The evolutionary perspective on true crime does not reduce the genre to mere biology. It elevates it. It shows that what looks like a modern obsession is actually an ancient necessity, wearing new clothes. The campfire has become a podcast. The elder has become a documentarian. The warning story has become a 10-part series. But the function is unchanged. We consume true crime because our ancestors who paid attention to danger survived. And their attention to danger lives in us. So the next time someone asks why you watch these stories, the answer is not that you have a dark sense of curiosity. The answer is that your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is running a survival simulation. It is extracting lessons from the worst moments of other people's lives so that it can protect yours. The obsession is not with death. The obsession is with staying alive. In a world that has engineered away most physical threats, true crime is one of the few remaining inputs that satisfies the ancient demand for threat intelligence. It is not a bug in human nature that we are drawn to these stories. It is a feature that kept our species alive through environments far more dangerous than the one we inhabit now. The fact that you can satisfy this drive from a couch with a screen in total safety is one of the strange luxuries of modern life. But the drive itself is older than civilization. It is written into your neurocode. And every time you press play, you are honoring the ancestors who passed it down.